Right, so I've just come into a yard of a very good friend of ours, and there's some right little gems in here that I think we'll have an interest in, but Craig's just going to explain about this gearbox on this. Is it a 6610,
yeah,
Craig?
What this is a 10 series tractor, come out in early 80s, and a good tractor. The one before it was the Ford 5000, Ford 7000, what have you. Really good tractors, really stood test of time. They brought these out, good tractors, but they had just a few issues, and they were synchro mesh. The first ones with synchro mesh box, and what they did, they put the gears on the column. Well, this is a very early one. I haven't seen that many of these about, to be honest, for a while. But this is, they got the Rubik box, what they call the Rubik box, which nobody could ever. You could never get gears with them. I mean, there's a fair bit of slack in this one. First and second one back to get, second and third, but I think it was second to third. I think there's two movements in thing, and unless you really knew what you were doing. I mean, I drove one years ago, and I ended up with it. You could end up selecting two gears and end up going back to the farm with a load of taters at low box. But somebody once told me, they says, when you're using it, get hold of it and hold lever up. When you're selecting your gears, hold it up, and do you know what? It just clicked, and I got it, and I could use them, and you could go through gears at synchro mesh. But it didn't last long. Somebody had decided that they needed to get it were affecting sales. They needed to get this sorted, and they ended up putting an H box in, same column but an H, so it's really easy to use. But to be fair, with these 10 series tractors, this were going to be the least of the problems, which I'll show you when I get down. Yeah, like I said, that the Rubik box were going to be the least of its problems, because lurking round the corner was a much bigger problem, which was the engine. I mean, what started to happen with a lot of these 10 series tractors was the blocks started to go porous. So they go porous, and you'd end up with the water getting into the linings. You could alleviate that. You could have them bored out, and you could have them relined. But if they went porous on the camshaft housing, it was game over. You couldn't do anything with them, which some of them did. They didn't have liners in, but you could bore them out and put liners in to make them right. And even so, to try and get round it, to strengthen the blocks up, they made this crisscross outfit. As you can see, this is had another engine, and this has fallen foul.
Oh yeah, crisscross, yeah, like a honeycomb type thing.
Yeah, crisscross blocks. That's a new engine, and Ford did a lot of these on warranty, so it cost them an arm and a leg. But the telltale signs, you just go dip it for oil one morning, pull it out, it'd be like salad cream, and then it's mixing.
Yeah.
And that was a real gremlin, and that knocked sales back terribly for Ford.
Yeah, a step backwards for Ford, that, Craig.
But the tractor itself, if everything were right, engine, gearbox, ultra reliable, run all day long, and just nice and basic, stick and lever, good tractor, wire edge, but yeah, Rubik box.
Good tractor, but a few problems with ones like this, Craig.
A few problems with engine and gearbox. If you got to, I mean, you couldn't just send it to a farm and expect a lad to get on it and whoop them gears, because it was just so bloody. Whoever thought of putting that in and thought it would work, I just do not know.
There you go. Well, we seem to be finding Fords all over this yard, Craig.
Yeah, I didn't realise he had this many Fords, to be honest. Anyway, I've spoken to him, and he's gonna get them all dragged out into the middle of the yard so we can have a look at them. And some of these are for sale. And just to keep people interested, there's two counties lurking about in sheds here. I haven't seen them. They're about. There's some stuff chucked over them, and they're going to get dragged out. Two counties.
Well, that's interesting. We only found one last week.
Yeah, I'm not going to tell you what models they are, but they're interesting.
Right, brilliant.